Okay, decoctions. You know, decoctions are a lot of fun. It's just a big fancy name for, we're going to use some roots and some barks instead of, you know, like the powder or the leaves of the herb. And I want you to see this. The roots and the barks, it's a little bit harder to get this stuff to infuse into water. This is really chunky stuff. And the roots and the other things, they actually like to be boiled. And it doesn't kill the properties in it. It extracts more out of it. So to make a decoction, again, you're going to go back to your distilled water. And we're going to use 1 cup of it. And there's a lot of things that you can use this for. So your 1 cup, notice it's not boiled yet. This one you kind of do in reverse. And you can put the 1 teaspoon to the 1 cup of water. So you have your decoction ready. And you could actually go to the stove and boil this right now. Or you gotta decide what you're gonna use that decoction for. So number 1, the 1 teaspoon is gonna work in the 1 cup of water if you're just gonna drink it as a tea, right? And you just, your dosage there would be just 1 cup when you're drinking it. Now if you want to make a really cool thing, which is called a fomentation, I'll show you how to do it next after this is made. You're going to want to double it. Remember how we doubled the last one because, you know, we're making a syrup? Well, with decoctions, you're going to double it just simply because your body is going to absorb this through the skin, so you need it to be stronger, so you have a more effective formula. This happens to be the Complete Tissue and Bone Formula by Dr. Christopher, also called BF&C, and it's in the cut form. And so this is often used as a decoction for fomentations, meaning it's going to be applied to the skin and absorbed through the skin in an injury area. And it works wonders. The skin just soaks it up and helps you heal. So I'm going to put this on the stove to boil, and we'll go back to making our syrup. Okay, so we had our lid on this, and this is our herbal infusion of the infection formula. The reason why I chose the infection formula is because it is super bitter. It is an excellent herbal combination to give to children, but oh my goodness, you are not going to get, you're just not even going to be able to wrestle them down and get it down into their throat. You're going to have to use some pretty abrasive methods to get this stuff in. It's that bad. My mom, she used to take straight golden seal, one of the main ingredients in here, and if we were sick when I was little, we had to prove that we were sick. We had to go take a whole tablespoon of the tea, the straight tea, yeah, torture of this like most bitter herb in the world, and take it down if we were saying that we had a sore throat or that we're sick and we didn't want to go to school. I went to school so many times ill. I can't even count how many times because I didn't even want to take it. So Mom, as much as I love you, this is right back at you. I learned how to make this formula taste good. You want to know how? And kids will take it. And they like it. You can even administer it to babies when you're doing this right. So we have taken the 2 teaspoons, right? We're trying to get ready to make it into a syrup. The glycerin helps to sweeten it, first of all. And the glycerin is the preservative. So we just need this to filter. And when it's all in there, then your tea, you will first double it with the glycerin. So we're going to let that continue over here. Take your glycerin. Now remember, you have 1 cup of the tea or infusion. So you're going to put 1 cup of glycerin. In fact, if you look at the Dr. Christopher formulas where they make these, they put 1.25 cups of the glycerin into their formulas. Makes it a little bit sweeter, makes it a little bit more preserved, And it makes their lawyers happy, right? With their tests and their preservation. You're just going to mix that together. And honestly, you have a syrup that's ready to go. But is it going to be kid-proof? No, it's not going to be kid-proof just yet. You need to add another couple of things into it. So I'm going to grab those and we'll be right back. Alright, so how do you sweeten this a little bit more? Well, like I said, the glycerin sweetens it, but it needs to be really, really good. The way you cover up the bitter, this is so brilliant. I'm so glad. I just put some honey in it. And you can put anywhere from a teaspoon of honey, I think that's about enough, to, if you want to get really sweet, like a tablespoon. Really depends on your kids, depends on your taste buds. Add what you want there. Is our decoction almost done? Let me turn that down. So this is boiling. We're now going to simmer this decoction, and it needs to go for about 20 minutes total from the beginning of boiling to the end. We're going to stir this in. If your honey is crystallized, you're going to need to melt it beforehand, or you just have to put it into the hot water after your infusion's done, but while it's still hot, right? Because you need that honey to mix in all the way. And then choose an essential oil that is your favorite. This one is peppermint. My family tends to like it. I've also noticed that sweet orange is a really good tasting one in here. Lavender, not so much. And a lot of other weird things, not so much. You can put a thieves oil in there if you want to boost the effect and make a stronger, you know, like sore throat sort of a remedy. But that's not usually kid-proof. That's just a boosted, you know, for those who can handle it formula. If you're really trying to make it taste good, just one little drop of peppermint is enough in this formula. And there's something about that peppermint that really covers up all of the bitterness. You ought to make this, and then you ought to try it. Haha! Mom, it doesn't taste bad! I love this stuff. So we're talking about the infusions and decoctions, which the only difference between them is what you start with, right? It was the regular herbs versus the roots or the barks that really need to have all of the components boiled out of it. We just got through making an herbal syrup out of the INF formula, and I want to show you something really important. Label your little things that you make. Any herbal preparation that you make, you need to label it. If you don't, you might have to throw it away later because you don't know what it is. And so I put the date on it, I tell what it is, and sometimes you can even put the dosage on there. The dosages will be in your packets as to how to use the herbal syrups that we've made. So be sure to become really familiar with that. And we're going back to the decoction. By the way, the syrups need to be refrigerated, so those go in the fridge right away. The decoction has been boiling for about 20 minutes now. And so we take it over here, and we're going to filter it just like we did the other herbal infusion. So we've got this, and let's see, what do we want to put it in? Get a jar. This will be good. I've washed my funnel. I've washed my little coffee filter. Look at that. That is a beautiful finished product. So what can you do with this? You can do a lot of things. After you filter it, you can drink the tea. It is a, you know, it's a twice as strong tea, so you probably only need a half cup of it for a normal dose. Save the other half cup for later. What else could you do with this? You could make an herbal syrup out of this. This is the complete tissue and bone formula, and if you want a syrup for a child, like my daughter, for instance, at 4 years old, broke her leg, and we couldn't get capsules down her, we couldn't get the powder. This is another really bitter formula, not kid approved, right? So I would just make the same syrup that I just made for somebody like that, and give them the dosages, which you'll find in your packet again. Look at that beautiful, oh, that is a decoction. The other thing you can do, this is really fun. A fomentation can be made by dipping it into the tea. And why do I have some old pillowcase? Well, what I'm doing is I'm trying to make either a bandage or just something to soak the tea in, and then I want to put it on my arm or wherever I have an injury. Or for beauty purposes, there's a lot of women who use this, and it's really fun to do this fomentation wherever you want it to soak. Now don't burn yourself. We just took this one off the stove, so I'm being really careful. And you typically just dip this right into the formula after it's cooled. It is a good idea to put it on hot enough that it's going to seep into maybe even as deep as the bones, but not hot enough to burn you. So I'm testing this now, and because it's soaked into the cloth, it has cooled. This is how you do a fomentation. Just wrap it around the area that you're trying to give extra nourishment to. Some people even use this for psoriasis. They have certain formulas. Now there's a couple ways to fasten it, and we'll come right back and I'll show you those two ways in just a second. Okay, so there's a few things that you can fasten this fomentation with. It's actually sticking pretty well, but if you start moving around, or if I put this up against my clothes, it's going to soak in, and I'll get this kind of a color of a stain on my clothes, and I don't like the stain removed, so I like to prevent that. Besides, you want all of the goodness of your decoction or infusion to go into your skin and not into your clothes or into anybody that you hug. They might get kind of mad at you, right? So this is what I use. Saran wrap. That's one of your choices. If you just put saran wrap over it and make sure the whole thing is covered, voila, you go to bed and it doesn't get into your sheets unless you move around too much, right? So there's another thing that you can put over it, and you can either put the saran wrap first or just put this on. It's called a vet wrap. These are so cool. So it's like one of those little stretchy medical supply things. Here you stick it around. Don't want to cut off circulation, right? You want a good flow of circulation there. But you just want this really cool stuff to hold it in place and to keep the fomentation going into the skin where it belongs and away from all the fabric and everything you touch where it doesn't belong. Cool, huh? Fomentations you leave on for as long as you possibly can. You can put them around the throat, you can put them around the ankles, you can wrap them around the chest if you have a broken anything, wrap it around the broken anything. Really, fomentations can go anywhere, and the type of decoction or tea that you use for the fomentation, well, that's what you come and learn in the School of Health Freedom, is what kinds of herbal preparations you would use for the different things. Always use them with wisdom and with prudence.